Hello, my name is Gabi, and I am the maker of Turtle Hexagon pin looms. I'm also a fiber crafts enthusiast and therefore have been a customer of the Woolery for over a decade now. Well, every year I'm really looking forward to follow their 12 fiber gifts of Christmas, and this year it's a very special honor to us that we can have our hexagon pin looms featured as part of the 12 fiber gifts of Christmas. So this week, if you look at the Woolery, you will see that they feature our original hexagon pin loom, which is for worsted weight yarn, and it measures about 4 inches side to side. It's a great hexagon pin loom to get started with. As I said, it's for worsted weight yarn, and the Woolery happens to be my place as a gourmet buffet for special weaving yarns. So for the little project that we want to present today, we chose the Cestasi Mt Vernon Collection, which is worsted weight yarn. It's a little bit on the heavy side for worsted weight yarn, but it's 100% merino, and it's really, if you enjoy working with natural fibers, the Cestari yarns are just absolutely wonderful. They, by the way, have a great story. So if you're not familiar with Cestari, go to the website and just read up on their history. A very strong, enthusiastic, determined story with a great selection of natural yarns. But let's get started right away. If you are new to pin loom weaving, I do suggest that you grab your loom and some scrap yarn, worsted weight, and the instructions booklet, and just work through a couple or 2 or 3 hexagons to familiarize yourself with the weaving method. I will show in our video a very quick walkthrough on weaving, because we will make an elf basket for little treats, and so we will be weaving 2 colored hexagons, and I will show you in this video in a very quick pass through how to weave with 2 colors. All right, so if you're not familiar, just make a couple or 2 hexagons. There are great videos to get you started right here on our YouTube channel, or use the instructions booklet with the pictures. Ask questions if you have any, and then let's get ready to weave the Cestari yarn with 2 colors. All right, let's get started. As I mentioned, we are using the Mt Vernon collection from Cestari, and this is the Dahlia red, and this is the natural looking color, which is called baby breath, and you can get them right at the Woolery when you order your loom. It's a one-stop shop. There are several great colors to choose from, so pick any 2 colors of your liking. You need 1 skein each color, and it will be plenty for many baskets. The elf basket. One of this year's most popular projects has been to make baskets with our hexagon pin looms, and so we decided to make a holiday version, an elf basket, and I will show you just a few highlights here on what to look out for if you work with the Cestari. The Cestari is a little bit on the thicker side, and it has some stretch. But the benefit is that once you weave your hexagons, it creates a nice and dense fabric, and pretty much it's ready to go to make a basket. So you don't have to sturdy it or line it or anything. It's ready to go. So it's a relatively quickly project. Again, I will not show you all the details of weaving the hexagons. For that, you have the instructions booklet and also the videos here on YouTube. Let me see. Just want to take this one out. So we're getting started. You are working with natural material, and so one thing I want to point out here is how to tame the sheep, really. With the Mount Vernon, it's important that you weave very loosely, and I can show you. I hope that even though I don't explain each single step, that this is useful for you to just see what I'm doing here. So I'm getting started, and you can see probably that I'm weaving very loosely. If just if you, I like to do the bounce effect. If you can do that, if you can play the harp on it, it's too tight. But for the Mount Vernon, you actually want it really very bouncy. So let's do one more row, and then I will show you the next thing. Since it's a thicker yarn, you want to really start packing as soon as you can. And I use the back of my locker hook in the beginning, and you just want to pack right away. Keep it loosely, but pack right away. And then we will pack after each round, which is just important. So weave loosely and pack after each round is pretty much the key to success for making this basket using the Mount Vernon yarn. And I know there are a lot of people that they just want to produce, but I want you to, or I would like to suggest, I can't make you want it, I would like to suggest that you really enjoy working with the materials. And for example, this wool just feels so great, and it's like petting a sheep, and I just really like that a lot. So enjoy taming the sheep. All right, at this point we are good enough that you can use the packing comb that comes with your loom kit and just slide it down like this. All right, and we keep on going, under, over, under, over. Let me point out, here's a little flimsy on the yarn, and I just leave that in for the project. It really doesn't matter in strength, and it's natural. It's not machine made. It's your sheep. So over, under, all across, and we just have a few more rows, and you start to. Oh yeah, another thing that I want to show you. If you're a beginner, it is okay and actually needed if you have this little bow here. If you are new to weaving, this actually helps because of the over-under motion. There's some intake, and you don't want to have it stretched. So basically have this little bow, and then you just slide it down, which will give the fabric the perfect tension in the end. And this is true for all kinds of weaving, whether you are weaving on a large loom or a rigid heddle loom or a pin loom. It's true for weaving in general. All right, so we wove one round and we pack. We have 2 more rounds to go. So if you're new to hexagon pin loom weaving, this is the last round. You weave the continuous strand method until you get to the corners that are marked with the circles. I'm not sure if you can see this here. So this is our last round of weaving in the continuous strand method. And so you go around the corners that have those little, that are marked with the little circles. And pack it. You can slide it up a little bit and pack it down here. So at the end of the first part of weaving, the continuous strand weaving, it should look close to like this. It doesn't have to look perfect, because remember, we're working with a natural material, and you can shape it and shape it, but it should look something similar like this. All right. So your instructions booklet says that this is the time when you wrap the yarn and start a different weaving method. And because we want to have the center section filled out with the red yarn, this is the time to switch colors. So we just clip the white yarn here, leave a little end so that you can sew it in, and we switch to the red yarn, and we will do the wrapping with the red yarn. So leave a little tail like this, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the top. If you don't remember the wraps, just look at the back of your loom. It will tell you how many wraps you need. All right. So there's a stamp on there. Okay. Now we take the red yarn and just thread it into our locker hook. So we now start to use the locker hook. Before, we have used the locker hook like a crochet hook, and now we start using it like a needle. So thread your locker hook, and we will do the second part of weaving, where we will just go back and forth like in the traditional weaving method. And let's just get started. So it's like over, under, all the way across. And I'll leave a little tail here. So these 2 tails are extra tails. You can weave them in or sew them in. I like to just leave them right now like this, and so we sew them in later. But you could, if you want, weave them in right now. And again, pack. All right. So your first row in a different color looks like this. And now you just weave with the traditional back and forth method to fill in the center. Another thing that I want to point out here, don't pull too tight. Remember that we work very loosely when we work the first part. With the second part, you might have a tendency to pull in too tightly. Try to resist that, because you don't want to, again, the yarn has some stretch to it, so, but we want to keep it unstretched. So you see this here, so there's a little bow here, and it almost looks too loosely, but keep going and leave it like that, so that it doesn't pull in once you take it off the loom. And this will take just a few minutes for me to weave it here. Again, pack after each row. And if you want, you can grab a cup of coffee right now. I do want to show you this in real time, because I think it's important. I know some people just do, some people would do the fast forward here, but we're doing a craft. We are working with our hands. We are enjoying a very beautiful yarn here. So I think it definitely makes sense to just take a few minutes to enjoy this. And I actually have some customers that say, well, I know already what you're doing there, but I just like to watch it. It's very soothing to watch the weaving. And I think there's some truth to it, particularly these days. and you can see how the effect here automatically builds up. So all you need to do is just, it's very simple. You weave one color and then you weave the other color and you get this big red stripe in the center of the hexagon. You can actually use it not just for the baskets. There are some really interesting effects that you can achieve with it. You can make stripes on table runners, or if you switch. One thing of the modular weaving method, including for hexagons, is that you can play with colors. And for example, you could make some of those hexagons and have the blocks in different colors and then put them together as a pillowcase, where this will be difficult if you do that with some other looms, because you don't have or it's not impossible, but it's much more difficult to switch colors in ways that you can switch with pin loom weaving. So experiment with it, and it can be actually a lot of fun. Or you can use different yarns. For example, if you use a fuzzy yarn in the center, you can get quite an interesting effect with the same minimal effort that you're using here. So but I'm kind of segueing away from our weaving here. That's kind of, but it's kind of the chat as you craft together thing that just automatically comes. And we're coming here to an end. So here we get to the last row or rows. We have to do one more back and forth. There's one pin here and one pin there. I pack one more time here, and also slide the top triangle up. And this is our second to last row right here. And then we have one more row here. You could pack, but you can also at this point just hook your way through the last row with the locker hook. And I hope you can see what I'm doing here. So anyway, that's our last row. So pull through tightly. Too tightly, and if you want, you can straighten it out. So if you look at it, it looks a little bit crooked. There are some that are closer, some that are wider. For this yarn, it really doesn't matter, because watch this when I take it off. All you need to do is just pop it off the loom. This is like pop it off the loom from throughout the hole here, and that's it. There's nothing else you need to do. You can undo the slip knot from the beginning, and then comes the famous wiggle wiggle method. So wiggle wiggle, wiggle wiggle, and this is the beauty of working with a natural yarn like the Cestasi Mt Vernon. You can just really wiggle, or the wool really wants to be worked with and settled into place. All right, let's take a look here at our hexagon. Here we go. Zoom in a little bit. So that's all there is to it. So basically weave the first part of the weaving, where you weave the continuous strand method with the white yarn, and then cut it off, do the wraps and a little tail with the second color, and then do the weaving, the back and forth weaving in the second color. And let's do this 4 times, because you will need 4 of those hexagons to make the elf basket. Stay tuned. All right, there's a time to weave, and then there's a time to sew. Did you enjoy weaving your 4 hexagons? All right, let's take a look and how to put them together to make our basket. Let me make some space here. All right, first, this is where we start, or this is how the hexagons come off the loom. And I do suggest at this point to weave in the ends where you switched the colors. We will use the starting and the end tail for sewing, but these two kind of are extras, and if you haven't woven them in before, I do suggest that you weave them in now. You can weave them in any way you want. For the white one, I suggest that you just weave it back into the fabric, or I will show you both ways. Either weaving it back into the fabric, which is what I'm showing you right here for the white one. About halfway through the hexagon is perfectly sufficient, and we'll just make sure that you don't pull it in too tight. So you want to pretend that it looks a little bit like the weaving, and again, the natural wool helps you greatly with that. See, you can barely see where it actually goes in. And for the red one, we will weave that in here along the edging. So just put this in here. Again, you could weave it in towards the fabric, but since it's our contrast color, I like to weave it in here. And you can use the turns of the yarn from the weaving to guide you for sewing in the thread. So along the edge, you want to pull it out a little bit, see, so it will look like this. So the white one we wove in back into the fabric, the red one along the edging. This is optional. I just wanted to show you both ways. You can do whatever you prefer. And then we just snip off the ends, leave a little bit extra because they will go into the fabric. And so this is what your hexagons will look like right now. So we use the starting tail and the end tail for weaving them together. All right, you need 4 of those. So this is our number 1, and I'll show you how to lay them out. Start with this one like that, the way it comes off the loom, and then we put the end tail and the end tail, the start tail and the start tail, end tail away like this. Okay, and the next one, start tail together, end tail away. Start tail together, end tail away. This looks a little bit wild right now, but I'll show you step by step. But this is the layout that you want to get for your basket. You will see here this 4 square down here will shape the bottom of the baskets. The red bars are the walls of our baskets, and then we have the little tips here that make the elf tips on the basket. If you are a mathematician, you would now tell me, wait a minute, with hexagons you only need 3 to make to fit them together like this. This is true. You could make it like the basket like this. It will make a smaller basket, but since we are elves, and elves are sometimes very tricky, we will make the bottom square, so like this. That's why we use 4 hexagons and not just 3. So I hope that the mathematicians with you will forgive me for that. All right, how do we sew them together? Grab any 2. I'll take those 2. Line them up like this from the center down any row here. So, and then pick any of the starting ends, thread it through your needle, and then you just sew this one side here. And the nice thing about hexagon weaving is that it creates so nice edges that it's really a piece of cake to sew them together. 1, 2, 3, and the wool just, you know, it's like, look at this, it just blends in so nicely. You don't even see it. That's what the wool does. That's what nature does for us. If you want, you can once in a while skip a stitch. I do 1, 2, 3 skip, so that it doesn't bulk up along the seam. But honestly, it's just really, between the weaving and the wool, you can do pretty much whatever you want. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3 skip, 1, 2, 3 skip, or no, it's 1, 2, 3 skip, 1, 2, 3 skip, and then 1, 2, 3, and you are at the end. Turn around and weave it in, and I'll show you what it looks like. So we started here with our 4 hexagons laid out like this. We grabbed just 2 of them, and then we sewed together this one little stretch here. The nice thing about pin loom weaving is that those sections that you need to sew, they are so short, you don't have to pin them or baste them. You can just hold them together and then sew through them. So let's do this, and I will clip this so that we have, keep it a little bit clean and clear. All right, so now you grab the next 2, and I'll grab the ones that are worked together, and the next one, like here, match up the sides, pick 1 starting thread, thread the needle, match up the 2 sides like this, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, skip, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, turn and weave in. I should have said that right away. Don't pull it in too tightly. Weave with some give. The idea is that in the end you want to create a fabric, or that your seams have the same tension or a similar tension to the weaving itself. Again, this is like, because we're working with a natural fiber, it's very forgiving and adjusting itself. This is like, you never see a messy sheep. They always look pretty neat. Okay, some of them are dirtier than others, but the fibers line up automatically, and this is a little bit what we benefit here. The character of the wool is still such that it's very forgiving, and it wants to work. The fibers still want to work with each other, and so it's relatively forgiving and easy to make it match. Okay, here's the last 4th hexagon that we want to join, and you see already there's the tendency to go a little bit together with 3, because that would mathematically be correct, but we are working with nature and we want to make an elf basket. So let me just make sure that I have this right. We take the last one and move it up like this, and at this point it doesn't really matter if you sew this side first or this side first. Just thread the starting tail, line up the sides, and let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, and turn. Weaving the end about halfway through is sufficient, which is like about half, you know, an inch, and then you can clip it off. Right, and we have one more last join to do here. So all the hexagons hang together one way or the other. There's one more starting tail that we need to take care of. Match up the last side, and at this point I also make sure that I close the center a little bit, so I make an extra stitch in the center a little bit earlier, and then before this will close, let me see if I can show you this, here in the center. So this first stitch of the last side will pull in the center. If you miss it, no problem, we can do that later with a leftover end. But if you remember it, just, you know, the first stitch on the last row, just stitch it back. But anyway, let's not complicate things here. Last side, bottom side, 1, 2, 3, and skip, 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, 1, 2, 3, turn, and weave in the end about halfway through. All right, this takes care of our 4 starting tails, and let's see where we are at. This takes care of the bottom of our basket. So let's just make this very clear here. So there are 4 red tails still that we will use to sew the sides together, but our bottom square is done at this point. It might bulk a little bit, which is perfectly fine because we want to make a basket, so we want it in the end to kind of just spread out and make sure that it really sits solid on the table or on the surface, and it also holds more candy if you use 4 instead of 3 hexagons. Anyway, so let's take a look at the next thing. At this point, at the next step, at this point we want to sew the sides of the basket together. Okay, let's just start here. You can start anywhere. Take any one red tail and thread the needle, and then you match sides that are near to each other. Just match them up like this, and you know you can't really go wrong. It's already defining itself. Now you can see here that you see the red turns over the white that make it really easy to sew it. So all you need to do at this point is just go through those little red turns on both sides of the hexagons. I am using whip stitch. You can also use a mattress stitch, and I'll show you that on a different on another side. I personally like the whip stitch, and that's kind of my go-to stitch for hundreds of projects by now. It's just very soothing. You know, the hexagons pretty much tell you what to do, so why reinvent the wheel and come up with something. I went through all the matching red turns, and I do, because it's a basket, we want to give it a little bit strength. So here at the top corner I'm doing one more stitch through the white yarn, and then I turn and weave in the ends. Okay, and then you can clip it, and that's all there is to it. Okay, so this one is now done. This is your first side. Grab the next red tail, and I show you now the mattress stitch, which you can do. Again, they're lined up right here. So matching sides lined up, and I just want to make one whip stitch to secure the bottom here. All right, and then you can just go fish for the red turns. Red turn on one, red turn on the other, 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 red turn on the other. So it goes like this is the mattress stitch. It goes very fast. It's not as strong as the whip stitch, but for this basket and particularly with this wool, it's perfectly fine. All right, wiggle a little bit, because one thing here is if you use the mattress stitch, you just get one straight tail through it. So you want to make sure that you have the right tension here. And then we do the securing whip stitch here at the top, because we want to give our basket strength. And then we will weave in the end, and that's done. So I will show you. The good thing is that we have 4 sides, so this is now, and you see there's almost no difference. This is the whip stitch, this is the basket, this is the mattress stitch. There's almost no difference in this particular case. We have 2 more sides, so I will just show you both whip stitch and mattress stitch again. Just grab the next tail, and it is whip stitch time. So we start with a securing stitch, and then we go fish for matching turns of the red yarn from our weaving and whip stitch them together. Again, this is a little bit more flexible, a little bit more stronger. If you know, in general, for this basket, it really doesn't matter which stitch you use. And this is the last one. I do recommend doing 1 whip stitch through the top white ones, because it's a basket and there's otherwise relatively little support like this. Okay, turn around, weave in the ends. Okay, one's a little bit short. Let's do one more, about halfway through. See, halfway through the side, and clip the end. Last one, last red tail. And you can see, again, this is like real time. So a lot of people shy away from sewing things together. But if you mentally make it part of your project, it's really not that, you know, it can be enjoyable. All right, I made the whip stitch here. And now we do again one more time the mattress stitch, where we pretty much just do one straight pass through and pick up the loops, the turning loops on our way. So we'll start here, pick up the other, pick up the other. If you find this too tedious, you can also do it in small sections. Let me do this. So basically, this is like I just made it half through the side, or just a few stitches, okay? You can do that too, absolutely. And then you do the other half of the side. Pick up the other, pick up the other, pick up the other, pick up the other. All right, so you can do that in little sections. I was just kind of lazy and did it in one pass through. Do a final whip stitch at the top, turn, and weave in the ends. All right, and clip, and your basket looks like this now. So you have the bottom, you sewed the bottom together with the white starting threads, and then we did the sides, and you can use either the whip stitch or a mattress stitch. And now we turn around the basket inside out, and if you want, you can just stretch the sides a little bit. All right, so this is now the official right side of it, and corners, and then you can put it down, and just this, you can see, so basically this is how you wove it, and this is like how you work with the sheep. Here's your basket, it's ready to be used, nothing else to do. So you can make such a basket in just a couple of hours, or you can just enjoy the process, and that's it. So let me see. Now you can fill it with your favorite candy, or some candy canes, and have a beautiful hostess gift, or something to give to your friends and neighbors or family, or send to your family, which this year is probably way to go. So one of the benefits is that the basket won't break. You can put it into an envelope and send it to your friends and relatives, make them happy that way. So I think it's a perfect project all around. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please contact me. You can contact me here through YouTube or through our blog at turtleloom.com. Or look at the instructions booklet on the back. There's the turtle@turtleloom.com email address, or you can find me on Facebook, on Ravelry, any way you want. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this little elf basket presentation, and I hope you enjoy your new original turtle loom from the Woolery, together with some of the beautiful Cestari yarn. Thank you and goodbye.